Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Zoom at 8. My name is Julianne Peterson, and I am your host every Tuesday night for Zoom at 8. And we've been doing this for 7 years. And Mark has been here, and so has Rhea for all of that time. And Scott's been with me. We're going to visit with Scott tonight on what a public adjuster does, things that you may not be aware of at all, and how Scott and his company can help you. So listen, I would like to be your lender of choice. We work specifically in multifamily, but we'll do other asset classes. We are specialists, like I say, in multifamily. So if you're looking at a deal, we'd love to give you a quote. We're going to need your T12, your rent roll, your underwriting, and your offering memorandum. Send it over. Let me know about the deal. How long do you want to hold it? How many units? What's the occupancy? And we'll run a quote for you. Typically on agency is going to be about 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours. So we've got a lot of changes going on in the market. Where some people think we're at the bottom. I think we're still in some discovery mode in some markets. So Scott Friedson is a partner with us here at Zoom at 8. He's been here, I think, 1 or 2 times, or is this the third time? Maybe second or third. I can't remember,
Second or
Scott.
third, yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Scott is a multi-state licensed public adjuster. He's CEO of a large loss public adjusting firm called ICRS, and that stands for Insurance Claim Recovery Support. You never know when you're going to need his services, so you better learn early, okay? His company is headquartered in Austin, Texas. He settled hundreds of millions in dollars in commercial and multifamily property damage insurance claims on behalf of the policyholders. He has lots of certifications. He also is an investor in over 10,000 units. So this guy is not only in the business, but he owns other deals. So he's very, very involved in this industry. I had the great fortune of using a public adjuster, never had any experience. I was really frantic. My husband was out of town. We had a windstorm. We had flooding. It was a mess. Cost me $60,000. And my folks said, well, you should use a public adjuster. I'm like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. That seems ridiculous. It was true. I called a public adjuster. They saved us a bunch of money. So when Scott told me he's a public adjuster, I said, I got to know you. I need you on my team. I need you to be with us and our clients here to know how he can help you. So I'm excited to have him here tonight. I know that Paula, she's used his services, had the great fortune of winning some money back on her claims that ended up, being a real pain in the tail. And I'm sure, Scott, you can highlight how you helped her and how you help other people. So if everybody would be so kind to go to the right side of your screen, up at the top, there's like 9 little dots, and click on that and give us the speaker view. Give us all of your attention. You should see me. And again, I want to welcome Scott again to Zoom at 8. How are you tonight?
Wow, I'm great, Julianne. That was a great introduction. Thank you.
Well, I'm telling you, we need you. You've been such a great partner. And I just want to, I say this about people that I think are just such a friend of ours, is you're like peanut butter. You just want to spread you around. We just want to tell everybody about you. So
That's very kiki, Julie.
I'm just so glad you're able to come and share your knowledge with us and how you can help us, because you really do something very special. that's needed. So
Yeah.
tell us about what you do and how you can help us.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's funny. The business that we're in of real estate, we're in it because we're all wanting to make money, right? It's all about rate of return and cash on cash on their, you know, we're in it to make money, right? Um, it's the sizzle of the reward and the upside that gets people going, right? But all too often, people are not prepared for the unexpected. And there's so many things that can happen to a property with the freezes and tornadoes and fire and flood and all this stuff. Everybody always thinks it's never going to happen to me, but
Mhm.
and they also make a huge mistake in thinking, well, I'm insured, so I'll be taken care of, right? And the insurance companies spend billions of dollars in advertising to pontificate and project this image that we're on your side and we're going to take care of you in your time of need. But the
Mhm.
reality is that's what they're selling. Okay, just like as investors, we're always looking for the upside and the cash on cash return, right? But the reality is that running properties is not a glamorous job. It is it is grueling, tedious work. There's a ton of minutia. There's so many moving parts. I love what your guest said about the cost segregation studies, the devil's in the details, and you don't know what you don't know. And when you're talking about reward side of investing in real estate, the thing that you also have to take into consideration is the risk side. It's like any
Mhm.
sport, right? A great defense, having a great offense. Part of that is having a great defense, right? You got to be able to read the offense. And in this world of the insurance claim world, this is chess. It is extremely strategic. You have to anticipate the next move before it even happens. And from a super duper high level, and then we'll get more granular. I want to hear what Paula's got to say about her experience. But from a super high level, the one thing that policyholders need to understand, well, there's a lot of things, but the one of the basic principles is this. The insurance companies have a duty to perform a proper investigation when you have a loss. Okay. Proper is very subjective. Okay. Just like what's a good deal? What's a good deal to you? Maybe not such a great deal to me. And then, the other thing is that you've got to take consideration that the insurance companies, they make their money taking premiums and they manage risk by managing liability when it comes to claims. And what most policyholders don't understand is that the burden of proving your claim falls on you, the policyholder. Let me say that again. The burden of
Mhm.
proof falls on the policyholder to prove up your damages. Okay. So when the insurance company comes out to do a reasonable investigation or a proper investigation, which is extremely subjective as there is a lot of gray in this world, most of the time it ends up being a repair deal. It's just based on what they can see. It's just so they can, give you a check eventually and then say they paid the claim. Okay. Insurance companies bear the burden of proving that an exclusion applies. Okay. So if they say, well, that's not covered, or we don't feel that that's necessary, or we don't think this, well, that's great, but we don't adjust claims based on what we think and feel and opinions, especially they're unsubstantiated. And so that there lies the need for someone like myself, like the public adjuster that's been doing it for, I've been doing this for almost 16 years now. And it's not even so much of what they do say, it's also what they don't say. It's not so much what they are looking at, it's what they're not looking at. It's not so much what they are saying, it's what they're not saying. It's this constant battle of like, look at the facts. Look at the facts. And Paula will tell you firsthand, we helped her on a claim. It was, fairly small, but it's still any amount of money is money you don't want to come out of pocket especially if you're owed it, right? I mean, if you're owed it, you're owed it. And in this case, it was insane. I mean, we asked for, I'll let Paula tell you about it, but I'll just tell you some of the nuttier things about this particular claim was this carrier did not use typical estimating software that most other insurance companies and even public adjusters use. Is called Xactimate. and the software is software. Okay, it's a word program is a word program. It's a word but you can make things. You can make tables and charts. It's all about how you program it, right? Sort of the same thing with estimating software. But the one thing that was just glaring on Paula's was, well, a lot of things besides the fact they hadn't moved was they had a fire claim and they had a hole in the roof. Okay, the insurance company, a hole, not like a patch need, like the fire department cut a hole in the roof from the fire. And fire departments often will make a lot more damage when there's a fire claim than the actual fire, because they hack everything up and they got to make sure everything's safe, and they just accent everything and venting stuff out, spraying water in, and it can be it's a huge mess. But what I'm getting at is we are asking a very simple, very reasonable question over and over. At least a dozen times, and that is, what is the scope? How much money have you allocated just for the roof? Because we can't identify exactly how much has been allocated. And they push back. And this is the other thing that's crazy. People think, well, this is a no-brainer. It's obvious damage. I mean, obviously we had a fire. Obviously there's hail damage. Obviously there's a tornado here. That is obvious, but it's still subjective. They're still going to try to repair it, or they're still going to read the policy incorrectly, or they're going to omit stuff. So we escalated their claim all the way up to a supervisor just to get an answer on what have you. And the reason we're asking the question is I already know the answer. The answer is not enough, because they made it like one square and the entire roof needed to be replaced. And we spelled it out 10 different ways so that an eighth grader could read it. And I'm like, we're not going to have to escalate this to appraisal or lawsuit, are we? I mean, these people just need to do their job and look at what we're sending them and go, oh yeah, there's a hole in the roof. We need to replace the roof, right? Paula, what am I forgetting? You're on mute.
Well, I was going to try to document some of it. First of all, they took down the walls to the rough end before we had a chance to look at the damage. So within 1 to 2 days before I could even come down, I mean, this is a property that's about 4 hours away from where I live. It's in Deer Park, Texas. That's about 4 hours from Austin. So they weren't supposed to do that, but they did it anyway. They left the roof exposed for like 8 months. I finally said, look, we're just going to do it. And we're going to just tell them, we'll give them a deadline and we'll say either you agree to it or we're just going to fix it, because the roof was exposed. And I got really worried because there was another major storm the week before we had already scheduled to get the repair. Another thing they did is they wanted to approve all of the walls to be put up, but they had not done all their environmental testing, and I didn't even know that that testing existed. So had we not had the proof that we had done that prior testing before we boarded up the walls, and if something were to happen or grow behind the walls, such as mold, then we would be liable and we wouldn't be able to sell the property. So these are all things that we don't know about, but Scott knew about. So that's really important. We finally just went ahead and did the roof. We had a double tarp before because of the storm, so I was really concerned that water was going to get in. I don't know if anyone knows right now, but the whole part of Houston is undergoing this massive Formosan termite problem right now. And these termites came from China and Taiwan, and they came up through Mexico, and they were bedding in trees, and now they're beginning their swarming season. This termite is supposed to eat property 10 times faster than regular termites. So, I mean, of course, we don't know how it got there. It just came from China. That's all. So anyway, for what it's worth, we've seen them in Houston. It's been on the news. We've had them in the property. People don't understand the light is attracting them. If you leave your window open or leave the door open, yeah, they're going to follow you in. So we all need to be aware of that if you're in the Houston area or surrounding area. And I even heard today from a guy that I do pest control with in Austin that they're making their way up to Austin. So I just want everyone to understand that. The next thing that they did is they fought us on the roof, and they wouldn't give us, it must have been the software, right, Scott? They wouldn't give us the itemization by trade so that we could compare apples to apples with other trade managers. And so when they wanted to do like per room, all these different costs, it made it very difficult for us to compare costs among different contractors. So they're finally on the mend. We just got, after 8 months, we just got the roof. We did the roof. We got the electrical. Got the permit, And now we're working on getting the insulation and the walls put up. So this is still 8 months, guys. We just got the permission to do that. So think about the rents that you're going to lose
So,
all that time. And we didn't have rent insurance. My brother, he didn't order for this property. I mean, since then we've taken care of it, but we're losing money like crazy, and we just want to get it well enough to sell. This is 6 units. That's all it is.
Yeah.
okay, so you're
It's
having
20K. That's
problems.
what we got out of them.
Okay, so you get 20K, but back it up a second here that you're having problems, you're having issues, you're having issues. You had seen Scott on Zoom at 8. We discussed him, what he does, and you're like, I need to get a hold of this guy. So, Scott, you get engaged by Paula. Kind of walk us through an example of what you did. I know you kind of talked about, getting the manager on and this and that, but when you looked at it, how did you assess it? What did you think in your mind? Hey, this is, she's getting taken advantage of. I think it's worth 15,000, 30,000. We can get this for her. Kind of, how do you assess this?
Well, doing this as long as I have, we can read the tea leaves pretty quickly and sum it
Yeah.
up and go, this is a go or a no go. And that's one thing I want to tell everybody is that, if we can help, we will. And if we cannot, we will tell you and we'll explain why. I mean, not every, you don't need a public adjuster for every single claim. A lot of times people will call us and say, hey, this is what's going on. I'll just say, try this or this. And if that doesn't work, call me back. Because sometimes it is very simple. But oftentimes it can be a lot more complex. So I remember when I saw Paula's deal, I knew that she was, in a hurry because of she didn't have any business income. That's not the insurance company's problem. And frankly, that's not something we really want them to know, because that might give them an incentive to slow things down, right? As crazy as it sounds, but it's all about,
That's evil, Scott. That's very evil. I mean,
well,
not that you're saying it, but they think that way. That's very evil.
there's a book out there called Delay, Deny, Defend. Okay. And it's been around for a long time. Anybody that's in the business of my business knows it. And it's the MO of a lot of these insurance companies. I'm not going to say all, but a lot of them, they play this game where they drag it out, they underpay it, they pay just a little bit so they can say they paid it, but you're not fully indemnified. And that's what the whole purpose of what insurance is. And on top of that, the folks that they get into a lot of these positions, they're not doing their jobs. They're just not. And the problem is that, and I'm going to get to answer your question, but the problem is that a lot of these adjusters are completely overworked, and they really don't have the bandwidth to do their job properly. They got to move quick and fast, and they know they are trained by defense attorneys and they are trained by their internal people that the insured bears the burden of proving their claim. Just go through and do whatever you need to do just so we can say we paid it, and that's a lot of times what it is. But given the fact that this was a fire, and one of the things that Paula touched on is an industrial hygienist, and it's amazing to me that if you don't know what that is, you would never know to ask for that. Okay, just like if you don't know that you can protest your property taxes every year, you're not going to do it. But once you do know that it's out there and you can, or do a cost segregation study or whatever, all of a sudden you're like, why wasn't I ever doing this before? Why didn't I know this before? Right. So an industrial hygienist is one piece of the puzzle that when I first saw Paul's claim, I'm like, we need to immediately get industrial hygienists in there to test the interior units for contaminants from smoke and soot. Also, I'm sorry, you were muted.
They called it a swipe test. That was not the only one that I needed, but that was one of them.
Yeah. And
the wipe and swipe test.
And then also because a lot of your audience, Julianne, is in the residential space. You got people are living in these units, and it's not even an option. I mean, you've got like EPA, you got OSHA, you got to test for asbestos and lead paint. It's just a good practice. And there's asbestos is everywhere, but it's when it's disturbed by the fire department or someone kicking in a door. And you usually see that with fire or flood and stuff like that. But what the industrial hygienist allows us to do is they're an independent third-party licensed party that tests environmental contaminants, and then they test it, they send it to a lab, they get the results, and then they write a protocol for what needs to be done in order to bring it to pre-loss conditions. And then after that protocol has been performed, they come back and they do what's called a clearance test. So they'll come back and they'll test everything again, and they'll give you a clean bill of health. This is all very important because not just because it's being a responsible landlord and making sure that people are living in healthy environments, but also there's going to come a day when you're going to want to refinance, you're going to get new insurance, or you're going to want to sell the property. You're going to have to disclose that, right? And so part of my background was I was a commercial real estate. I brokered apartment complexes for many years, and that whole disclosure, I know one thing for sure is you don't want to give any buyer an objection to closing your deal, right? So you want to do it right, not what the insurance company says, but what it takes to do it right per anybody else that's independent third party. So that's what was the first thing we did. We made sure that they had a hygienist. We made sure, and we had the insurance company. I think the insurance company paid for it all, didn't they, Paula? Did they reimburse you?
Yes, sir, they did.
Yeah. So, and there's also ways you position that. So we position that as a claim expense, and it's also there's so many little details, but you got to also remember that a portion of every premium that a policyholder pays goes towards claim expenses. It has to. Where else would it come from? Right. So if you think about it, you're paying an insurance company to hire their people that represent their interests, literally to work against you, the policyholder. Okay. So what we do is we'll say, look, this isn't coming out of Paula's uh, uh, policy limit. This is a claim expense. It's going to cost, I can't remember what it was, a couple grand, I think, for the industrial hygienist report. They hadn't done it. The insurance company hadn't done it. And that goes back to my comment about performing a proper investigation. How can you perform a proper investigation, insurance company, if you haven't done any samples to make sure where the contaminants lie and what needs to be removed or replaced? A lot of these contaminants can get into the HVAC systems, into ducts. I mean, it's fire and smoke is my recommendation is don't mess around. It is, I mean, you should get a public adjuster right away for anything that has water or smoke for sure. And then everything else in between, if it's over $50,000, a lot of insurance companies consider that a large loss. What's crazy is, they'll insure multi-millions, hundreds of millions, tens of millions of dollars in assets. But for some reason, if it's over 50,000, that's a large loss. And every insurance company has a little bit different guidelines. But on this particular claim, the idea is you want to give the insurance company reasonable time and information to do the right thing. Okay. We don't go in guns a-blazing, scorched earth. Now, in Paula's case, they had ample time and information to do what they needed to do. And then we stepped in and said, okay, basically just that. And once we completed our investigation and everything, we gave them a demand for payment. And they kept pushing back, saying, we don't owe for this, that, or the other for the roof. And so we escalated it. And I mean, I was literally like, I was about to tell Paula, and I guarantee you 99% of the public adjusters out there would have told Paula, just call an attorney. Just we're done. We can't, but we keep pushing and we keep pushing and keep pushing because we understand the time value of money. That if I make a little more extra effort, if I send them 2 more emails or 3 more emails and I give them another 30 days or another 60 days and we exhaust everything. And the next step would have been like filing a complaint with the Department of Insurance. Or there's things that we can do to escalate things, okay? But for something like this, I'm like, this is so dumb. Why do these guys not see this? This is a hole in the roof. It has to be replaced. It's down to the decking. The fire department did it. So finally, their supervisor looked at it, and he regurgitated exactly the same garbage that his junior adjuster was sending to me. And I sent him another. We just keep on pressing. And then I almost fell out of my seat, and I know Paula did too, because then he came back and he's like, "Oh, I should have been more patient and listened to what you were saying. I see what you mean now. We're going to issue the check."
Wow.
Well, another thing that is important to know, I mean, my brother started this process of insuring, and he had a friend of high school that was the actual person selling the insurance. But then my brother took off to Virginia. This was an estate property. So, we had to take it over, my sister and I, kind of midstream. And one of the things that is important here is that the verbiage that my brother agreed to in the contract that he signed was something that Scott immediately gravitated to say, look, we're not going to get to have her or her sister agree to anything unless it's something that the original contract addressed. In the contract that the brothers signed, this is what you said you would do. But this is not the witness of your protection. This is not how you've demonstrated your actions. So there was a big disconnect there. And so Scott was smart to stick with what they said they would do and hold them to account. Now, other people try to get involved. I mean, we had other agents come to try to confuse us, and Scott says, no, don't talk to them. And I didn't. But in the end, it was all about what we signed originally, or the family signed, and what they agreed to do according to their signature, and then what we had them do. So if we didn't have that to stop from Scott, I don't think that I would have caught that. You know, my brother signed it, and he knows how to read that language for insurance, and I did not.
You know,
if I had hired an attorney, that would be 10 to 20,000 extra. That would be obviating the reason to get the extra money for the roof in the first place.
Sure.
So I mean, you have to think about that.
I mean, the work that we do is a hair's breadth away from practicing law. I mean, I've had clients tell me, like, I have had attorneys work on my stuff for years, and your stuff is like better than anything that we've ever seen. We've had attorneys that most of our claims settle. From time to time, a policyholder is forced to litigation. We have one right now where it might end up that way. I'm talking to defense attorneys right now trying to avoid it. But if it does go there, the attorneys that we've worked with in the past, they all are like, your work product is so tight. And part of it is because we do have really good working relationships. And our goal is to get our claims settled. I mean, I do not want people to have to go into a long, drawn out appraisal or litigation process. It's ridiculous what policyholders have to go through. So
It's just evil. It's just evil. There's no
it is.
other way to talk about it. It's just turned into so evil these days. So
let's talk about what a public adjuster does. And you had mentioned, hey, get a hold of me right away. Yeah. When do you know if it is a valid or a situation where it's going to help? Like, do you wait until you get the no, or it's, hey, I had a loss, we're calling Scott? Walk us through that.
That's a great question, and I'll try to answer it as succinctly as I can. The first thing you have to understand is, if you talk to anybody that's been involved with an insurance claim where it wasn't going super smooth, it feels like a full-time job, because it is a full-time job. It is a full-time job.
I didn't realize that, but it's true. That's such a true. Because every day you'd be fighting, and you got like 4 businesses over here burning up, and Adriana's calling, and we're trying to make deals happen, and yet there's still this problem.
Yeah, and what most policyholders don't understand is you're always in a race against time, because there's time elements in every one of your contracts. 1, to report the claim, 2, to complete the repairs, 3 for loss of use. All these different time elements are always, that clock is always ticking. It's like an option. It's deteriorating. But to answer your question, when the best time is at the beginning of a claim, period. Okay. If it's a larger loss, if it's fire or water, or if it's a partial loss, right away. If it's over $50,000, and we try to get into, our sweet spot is $250,000 and up. We have a flat fee type of deal for claims under 250, and if we can help them just by answering questions, we'll do that. Otherwise, it's full blown representation. Over 250,000 is pretty much the cusp. But if it's over 50 grand, if it's fire or water, for sure. If it doesn't feel right, okay, a lot of people are very successful in business because they trust their gut. Okay, trust your gut. If you're being ignored, if you're getting the runaround, if your questions aren't being answered, if your phone calls aren't being answered, if your emails aren't being responded to, if you're asking a question like, what time is this happening? And the answer is, this is how you make a watch. Okay.
Mhm.
Those are all red flags. In fact, we actually have a report that we a website that we built out called whatisapublicadjuster.com. I'll drop it in here.
Mm.
And there's a little report that kind of talks about that and like when do you need one and why would you need one and what do they charge and how long does it take to settle claims and all that kind of stuff. I'll drop it in the
Oh,
chat.
that's great.
It's just whatisapublicadjuster.com. I've owned that domain for like 14 and a half years and I just launched it like a couple months ago.
Wow,
But
that's a great tool to have for our investors here.
yeah.
So we're going to reach out to you. And if you're thinking like, I'm not getting results the way I want to, I mean, what's the expectation on getting a claim resolved? I mean, if we reach out to you day one, we know it's 250. We've reached out. You're going to hold our hand, but what should our expectation be in getting that resolved?
Yeah. So when the second we sign a representation agreement with the policyholder, we send in a request for information that asks for a laundry list of just standard stuff that we need from the insurance companies. That way, we kind of like set the foundation. But we take care of all the correspondence, the meetings, the negotiations, documentation, coordination, bring in resources, whatever we need to help support your claim, answer your questions. We do what I call insurance claim therapy. It seems like it's pretty much a daily thing because, frankly, there are different stages. You know, we read this a lot. It's the stages of grief, right? It's it's
Mm,
disbelief, it's anger, it's bargaining, it's all these things that go on, and it's an emotional and financial process. Um, so to answer your question, because I do like to answer the direct questions. It depends. How long is a piece of string? I don't know. I mean, it because these are the variables. Okay, a lot of times, like if it's a fire, a lot of the times there could be an origin and cause investigation, and they're trying to subrogate. If that takes
mhm.
place, then they bring in all these other parties that, well, maybe it was the cash register terminal, or maybe it was the TV, or maybe it's a faulty lithium battery, or whatever. There's all these different things.
Yeah.
That investigation could take several months just for the investigation for cause and origin. Okay. That's like a worst case. That's a possible bad start, worst case scenario. But as the policyholder, you're kind of rooting for the subrogation because if there is a subrogation case, you get your deductible refunded. You don't have to pay a deductible. So that's nice, but you have to wait. If there is no cause and origin investigation, let's say it's like a straight hail claim, for example, um, it shouldn't take that long. It should take, I would say, between 3 to 6 months total. That means
Mm.
from the time that the claim starts, the inspections. It depends also on the policyholder. And what I mean by that is, I can almost guarantee you that any type of hail or wind claim, and it's a large loss, the insurance company is going to engage an engineer. Their engineer is going to write an opinion that's probably not going to be super supportive of what the policyholder wants because the insurance company is paying them to write their
Mhm.
opinion. So my advice always is in those types of claims is let's get your own engineer and we'll see if we get the insurance company to pay for that claim expense so that it's fair. If you're going to hire an expert, we should hire an expert because we're being fair, right? But even if they don't, it's still a good investment, and it's still like even with Paula's claim, there were some industrial hygienist expenses, and we got them to pay for it, right? So there's that, and then there's a matter of agreement on scope, and you have to remember the insurance company adjusters got a job to do. Their job is to ask questions and repeat those same questions and drag stuff out and just ignore it. And I mean, it really shouldn't be their job, but if you've been doing this for 16 years and you're seeing the same pattern in practice among all the insurance companies, it's what they do. If there's books written about it, it's just what they do. So
So let me ask you a question, Scott. So when somebody hires you at this point at the beginning of the transaction, they haven't really engaged too much with the insurance company. You're helping them on their behalf. You're working for them. Does the insurance company start working with you and not the policyholder? or are you coaching the policyholder to answer the questions in a certain way so that
No,
we're all together making the
that's a great question. No, we represent the policyholder, and they are copied on all emails. Like we sent Paul, like, here's a draft we're about to send. Let me know if you have any questions or want to have any suggestions. But we're always keeping them in the loop. The insurance company can always contact the policyholder, because they do have a contractual relationship. Most policyholders don't want to talk to their insurance companies, and a lot of times it's really sad, but a lot of times policyholders find themselves in positions where they're being asked to answer leading questions. And one of
right.
the things I always tell policyholders is if you don't know, just say, I don't know. I'll check. I'm not sure, to the best of my knowledge. I don't recall, or to the best of my recollection, or whatever. I mean, it happened. We were in Galveston last week, and we talked to a tenant at a fire, and asked them, okay, was your unit affected? No, I don't have any smoke at all. It's been fine. Oh, good, great, yeah, okay. Ever since we bought that machine, that ozone machine to get rid of the smoke, we don't smell it anymore. Okay, hold on. You did have
There you
some.
go.
You don't smell it anymore because you have a machine in there. But we asked, do you have any smoke? And you were like, it's fine. But if I was the insurance company adjuster and I asked that question, they said, exactly. No, we're
Yeah.
fine.
Like,
Okay,
oh,
great.
yeah,
Check. Oh, wait. Now you're changing your story. Oh, you did have smoke?
right.
Well, let's go down this rabbit trail for a little while. I call those things weapons of mass distraction. Okay. If she bought a machine and it's in her unit and it's for the smoke, there's nothing
There
else
was
really to
smoke.
talk about. Okay. These folks don't deal with insurance claims on a daily basis. And we have to have that conversation with insurance companies all the time, even though they do it every day. Well, they're sophisticated. We have an HOA where they're like, well, they had a fire 3 years ago, so they're pros at this. They know exactly what to do. No, they don't. No.
No,
Is the first time someone did a loan with you a pro at putting together loan packages?
sure. Right.
Right.
No. I mean, it goes back to even, going down that kind of road. It's like trying to get your own loan when this is not what you do in life, right? It's like let the professionals handle it. Let the professional get you a loan. Let the professional help you get out of this situation like what you're doing, Scott. So the next question I have is you get involved. It's a process. Are you coming on site as well, to be there and meet and all of that? So you're really hands-on.
In most cases, especially at the beginning of a claim, we'll go on site. We scope it out. We write the estimate. We present it. We negotiate. We make demands on insurance companies. We compel them to perform. We hold them accountable to the policy language, statutes. I mean, we represent the policy. We do everything. Now, in Paula's case, we didn't have to go there because we in the business is called desk adjusting, because most of it had already been paid for. We already knew what the delta was. We knew the areas that were in between, and Paula had already gotten the contractor that she was going to have do the work, had a number from them. This is the real number. This is what you guys owe. By the way, while I'm on that, I do want to say something else that's really important. Just because we produce an estimate doesn't mean that that's the end all. It is just that it is just an estimate. It is really important for policyholders to understand that you are going to get this work done sooner or later. So you are much better off while the process is going on, while we're working up our numbers. If you got a relationship, or if you don't have a relationship, you need to create one or find one for whoever it is that's actually going to do the work. Okay, because you don't want to get to the finish line and then realize, well, the estimate is X dollars. This doesn't happen very often, but it does sometimes happen, especially on, like, if you have anything that's custom or high, like tile roofs, Spanish tile roofs, very expensive, all different types of stuff. If there's decking, if there's code requirements, code upgrades, if you need a fire suppression system put in, all these little things need to be, you need to be working with and building those relationships, or reaching out to people, at least getting some bids so that you're comfortable with, once that money comes in, you're ready to get to work. And the numbers are right.
Okay.
And also, one
So,
other thing that's worth mentioning is if the numbers do come in low, for whatever reason, let's say we estimate a fire suppression system's $500,000 and it comes in at $600,000. Okay. You're not dead in the water. We can always supplement a claim. Okay. Or if something comes in, it's
Good point.
underpaid and you're like, well, I tried to do this on my own, but they're only going to give me $100,000 for my roofs. And I've got 25 roofs. And my contractor gave me an estimate for 1.5 million. And the insurance company says I just need one slope on each of my roofs to be replaced. And I need the whole roof to be replaced. That kind of thing. We get involved. A lot of the times we can desk adjust those. They're not any easier. It's just one less trip onto the property.
So what I want to make sure is that we can walk away tonight, whether we're on social media, you're listening to this, with a clear understanding of the policy, that we get coverage correct so that you can make sure that, hey, you took out the right policy.
Yeah.
You know, what I ran into on mine was wind damage. Like we didn't have rain damage, we didn't have flood insurance, which we didn't need to, but because the wind went sideways, we could claim it as a wind damage as opposed to water damage. So what do we need to be watching out on these multifamily properties? What's the language that we want to make sure? I know as an agency lender, the lender is dictating you have to have this amount of coverage.
Right.
But what is specific that we need to be putting in our paperwork so that we do feel like we're covered and we can get you in the door?
That's a great question. And it's just like with loans, right? Everything is price and terms, right? You're going to get a cheap policy if you get some diluted, watered down piece of garbage, and it's going to be worth exactly what you paid. So the things that I look for that I think are important when I put on my real estate investor hat on is one is deductible. Look, especially for hail and wind deductibles, especially anywhere in the Sun Belt states or any place where there's large amounts of hail like Texas and Oklahoma. Those a lot of them are percentage based deductibles, and a lot of them are so high that it's not even worth turning a claim in, because by the time you hit the deductible, you may as well not even turn a claim in. And by the way, if that does happen, or you even are thinking about that, that is one of the things that we help with our clients, and we're to help them make an educated business decision. Doesn't even make sense to turn in. Okay.
Well, I do want to point that out because that's always a concern for us. So the event happens. We want to get coverage, but we're not sure that we should be turning it in. If we call them, it goes on our record, right? On the property record. So do we call you first? And you say,
Yeah.
okay, even
That's-
before calling the insurance company.
Well, here's the deal. Okay. So we need to go back and answer the question about the insurance policy we need to be looking for. But since you asked this question, we'll get back to that. Okay. Because that's a really important. So so your insurance policy is a contract. Okay. So you have duties and your insurance company has duties. One of the duties that a policyholder has is to give prompt notice of a claim. Okay. So you don't want to wait for several days. Now, can you wait a day or two? Arguably, yeah, it's what's reasonable, right? So that's also great and subjective. But if you turn in a claim and it turns out like, you know what? I'm going to call Scott. I'm going to send these photos of the damages and have him look at my policy. And we're like, this is probably not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. Okay. You can withdraw a claim and you can request that it removed from your loss runs. But the trick is you got to do it before they go on site. Okay. Because once they open up a claim and they go and they do the inspection, then they're going to open up a claim because they've actually performed some work. You follow me? So, now the other thing too is I wouldn't lose a whole lot of sleep over that, because if you open up a claim and there's no payment made, I don't think that's really going to come back and haunt you. That's a good question for an insurance broker to ask. But I get your question. It's legitimate, and a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes with insurance claims, and myself included, when I was a young baby public adjuster, was this fear of like, I'm going to do something wrong, I'm going to mess something up, and frankly, That's why we have tax people that do our taxes, right? We can all read and write and do math, and we all, most went to college or whatever. Can I do my own taxes? Yeah. Do I want to? No, because if I check that box, is that going to trigger an audit? If I put this number in, am I going to hurt what I might get for a refund, or am I going to pay more in taxes? So let us. Am I paying more in taxes by having a professional handle that for me? No, but I mean, you could look at it that way. Like, well, I already pay for taxes. Why should I pay for a tax attorney? Well, I don't know. Would you have the
Mm.
IRS do your tax return? If the answer is no, then you have your answer, right? So let's go back to the policy question. Did I answer your other question about
Yes.
getting removed?
Yes. It's great.
So deductible is important. Code upgrades is important. Okay. Increased
Mhm.
cost construction is important. Um, Codes are always changing. HVAC, AC units, fire suppression systems, windows, you name it, it's always changing. So that's important. In fact, we've been involved in situations where the policyholder did not have enough code coverage for a total teardown when there was a marginal, well, is this a total loss teardown or can we rebuild it? And we've had a few claims like that over the years where it's like, this can't be torn down. We're going to have to
Mm.
salvage it to rebuild it because of the code upgrade stuff. Asbestos endorsement is important because especially if you're dealing with some of these older properties. Um, and if you're anywhere in Houston or anywhere near where you could possibly flood, get flood insurance through. It's cheap and it's well worth it. I mean, who cares? You're writing off the taxes anyway, and especially if you have investors, it's just a good idea that's going to cover stuff like basically surface water only. I'm trying to think what else are some of the biggies. Oh gosh, managed repair programs. This is a thing that's coming out. It's a big thing. It's a nightmare where insurance companies are trying to drive the reconstruction process by using their preferred vendors. And they do this a lot of times with water mitigation companies. And now they're starting to do it with roofing and restoration
Mhm.
contractors. It's a huge can of worms. If you're a fan of freedom of choice, this is not for you. Okay. If you like to have accountability with who your contractor is, making sure they do the right job, yeah, you're not going to want this either. The insurance companies, of course, love it because they can control the narrative.
Mm.
They can control the vendors because if you don't play our game, then we're not going to send you any work. And there's, a zillion other people right behind you that will. Also raises question as to accountability of who warrants the work. Gee, has anybody ever had a contractor do a bad job? Right? Well, if the contractor is the insurance company's contractor and they do a shoddy job, who's
Mhm.
responsible for that? We have a claim in Dallas where they forced them to use a managed repair program. The contractor did basically as little as possible to just repair it, left out all the code upgrades, permits. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the HOA was like, no, we're not using these guys. This is not a correct scope. Well, you have to use them. Well, that ended up going to law. I wasn't involved in that claim. Fast forward 3 years later, same HOA has another fire, different policy, also managed repair program where they say they have multiple vendors that are qualified. And we drilled in over the years. How are they qualified? How are they selected? Do you have references? Have they done other jobs of this type? Can you provide their names? Can you give us the
Mhm.
owner's name? Give us a copy of their certificate of insurance, right? All these things that we ask for. And it's like, no. Well, how did they become a preferred vendor for $1 billion insurance company? And you have no process in place to qualify them. And then we're like, okay, so
Mm.
these guys aren't going to work for us because they already have a pre-existing relationship that is sideways. So you say you represent, you sold us, you put it out there. The policyholder relied on your representation that you have multiple
Mm.
qualified vendors, and we use their advertisements against them all the time. And we say, okay, great. Well, just give us two or three other names, and we will consider them. Do you think they ever produce them?
Interesting.
No. So there's steering that's going on. My personal feeling is that the antitrust laws that insurance companies are exempt from need to be looked at
Wow.
if you guys have anybody in the House of Reps or senators or anything like that, any lawmakers, they need to start looking at this because it's out of control. You wouldn't. There's a reason why banks and stock brokerages and real estate transactions and insurance companies are all supposed to be separate, right? There's a reason for that. There's a reason why your real estate broker who represents you as your buyer is not also your inspector.
Sure, that makes sense. And should not be your lender as well. Just saying.
Right.
So let's talk about, and then we're going to need to wrap this up. Let's talk about the new policies with agencies are requiring, have to do with guns, death on the property, somebody was shot. I know there's like 2 or 3 that are exclusions now, and you have to get extra coverage because the insurance companies are saying we're not covering this.
Are you talking about for liability, like general liability policies?
Yes. Could you,
Okay.
if this happens and they say, no, you didn't have lighting, or there was no fencing, like, is that something that you would also be able to help with? Because this is an issue for owners right now.
I appreciate the question, and the answer is very simply no, because
Okay.
those are generally third party liability claims. We only deal with first party property damage insurance claims. But
Okay. Yeah.
I know what you mean. And
Yeah.
I can share you one little quick note on that I've seen from personal experience. If you have signs on your property that say you're being videotaped or there's video recording here, you better have it, because I know
Oh.
who had those signs posted all over the place, and a woman was assaulted, and her attorney asked for those videos, and they're like, we don't have that. That created a whole nother set of liability and issues for that owner. So there's
Really
that.
good point. Wow. That is some really great information. All right. So if we were going to we got properties, East Coast, Southern, Atlanta. Can we use your services, or you just specifically stay in Texas? Kind of walk us through that.
We're licensed in 16 states, and in any state, I shouldn't say any, most states, if we're not licensed in, most states have reciprocity with us, with Texas or Florida. We are licensed in Florida also. And then if we are not licensed, we know enough people in the industry that we could
Okay.
align with somebody that could help you. I mean,
So
we're not going to put
yes.
somebody that we don't know.
So it happens on a Thursday. We call you on Friday. It's Arkansas. You're flying out there on Monday. Is that kind of how that works to
Arkansas doesn't
assess the
have public
damage?
adjusters.
What's
But we
that?
can inherit. They don't license public adjusters in Arkansas, but we can
Oh,
be.
okay. So let's use another state.
But yeah, so typically what we like to do, say Utah or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually get out there right away, especially if it's a fire
Okay.
or water damage claim. It is always best, and we can coordinate with the insurance adjusters to do a joint inspection. Same thing,
Okay.
anytime the carrier goes out there for their initial inspection, or if they bring out experts like engineers and stuff, we want to be there. We've got one
Yeah.
tomorrow. We're bringing our engineer, and they're bringing an engineer, and we're gonna have a showdown.
That's fantastic. Wow. That's great support.
Yeah.
All right. If someone wants to get a hold of you, how would we do that?
Our website is insuranceclaimrecoverysupport.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Scott Friedson. My cell number is 832-725-2878. And, just call. If I don't answer, leave a message. Our office number is 512-904-9900. We're actually very proud of our intake, our systems and processes we have. It's designed so that if someone does come to our site and they want immediate help, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. There's an intake form that they can go through. It takes about 2 minutes. And it's set up in such a way that you won't forget anything, and that we can quickly assess what you've got going on under the hood, if you will. And then, yeah, I mean, we're here to help, and if we can, we will. And if we can't, we'll tell you why.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, let's open this up and see if there's any questions. Because, guys, again, an amazing resource. You might not need it today, tomorrow, but you may need it next year or in 2 years. And Scott's going to be there for you. So let's open it up. I know Paula has a question or comment, so let's go to her first.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you assess damage for storage units?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I'll let you
Any
know.
commercial real estate, Scott, or
Any
also
commercial.
home?
We do.
Thank you.
We really do a lot of commercial work. We've done schools, hotels. We do a lot of apartments, tons of HOA communities, a lot of churches. You know, and we do residential, but we don't market residential. What ends up happening because we do commercial multifamily, when somebody's got a multi-million-dollar claim and then on a custom home, they'll call us. It's just like, oh, I want. So we, like, for example, we are currently adjusting. It's the largest house in the state of Utah. It's 44,000 square feet. So
A little
yeah,
bit smaller than mine, you know, hey,
well,
gosh.
and this is the other thing we do. I mean, we always tell our clients, look, I mean, Julianne, if it's you or Paula or anybody that's in your network, like when Paula called, I was just like,
Yeah,
we don't really get involved in claims this size, but because it's you, we'll do it.
yeah.
Very
Okay.
kind. Thank you,
Yeah.
Scott.
No. And we're happy to help. I
We're
mean,
just trying to send you business as we speak, so that's good.
bring it on. But yeah, we're here to help.
Okay, that's awesome. Anybody else have a question, comment? Damon, you got it all? You good? Thumbs up?
Learning journey every day, one step at a time.
Yeah, good.
But thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I was involved in one. We said no, no guns in our properties. We have a fire. We get in there. There's guns that are behind the bed. They're displayed on the wall. And we're like, okay, these guys are out of compliance. That puts us at risk. We had a real problem with trying to get, the fire marshal came in, said it has nothing. There was a shortage. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. It wasn't the problem. It was something to do with the property. We fought it and we won and we got the claim paid. But how many times have you found yourself going, okay, I guess I'm a victim, which is what Scott is talking about here, you guys. Don't be a victim. Take control. Figure out, do we have a claim here? Am I being taken advantage of? Who can help me? And that's Scott. Scott's going to be here for you. Any final comments, Scott?
You know, you touched on one thing that it's also very interesting. Over the years, we have seen people say, like, I don't know why I don't believe me. I'm not making this up. Like people like they really do feel like you're guilty until proven innocent. And it's like, I'm not crazy. It's like, no, you're not crazy. You pay this company big money and they're supposed to take care of you in your time of need. And they should be assisting you and making the process easier. And what are they actually doing? And, I mean, anybody that's gone through this process can tell you. Now, again, I'm not here to bash insurance companies and say that they're all bad and evil. I personally had a claim on my house and it went smooth as silk. It was probably because I had Mika for insurance.
Because it's you.
Well, no, I did nothing.
They
In
know.
fact, I intentionally stayed in the background and didn't do anything
They
just
know.
to see what would happen.
They know.
Maybe they probably do.
They probably do. Let's check this guy out.
But it was a Mika. So my advice is that if they advertise on TV, be careful.
That's right. They got bucks.
That's great.
They got bucks.
I mean, I always think about Geico and I think about Progressive and, my kids have that for their car insurance. I'm like, I don't know.
George Soros. No, thank you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So Scott.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
It's the bigger ones that are typically, you got to watch out.
That's right.
Okay. Well, Scott, once again,
don't wait.
I just want to thank you for your time. I want to make sure that everybody knows you're a real deal and, give Scott a call if you have any questions beforehand, figure out the process so that you're very clear. on how he can assist you. So Scott, again, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
helping out here on Zoom.
I love
Thank you,
your
Mr.
show,
Friedson.
but being on your show anytime.